What is going on, everyone? Welcome on into Sports Talk with Brodes. No actual game tonight, which sucks, but instead I decided to do a little Ask Brodes Anything type of concept. We're going to have a lot of fun. We're live right now. We have the chat room going. We have the anytime hotline, 856-442-9805. You can call into the show. You can text into the show. So really, it's a free-for-all. Bryson Stott had some interesting things to say, and I'm starting to get juiced up thinking about the baseball season. I threw up on my Twitter page a video of Zack Wheeler putting together a gem against the Mets. That was the weekend last year where they swept the Mets, and it was such an awesome feeling. The juice surrounding the squad at that time was definitely like no other, and it was awesome to have Phillies red baseball and the excitement of the town. It honestly has been 6,000 years since we had something of that nature, so truly incredible. Apparently, baseball, the owners, and the MLBPA is going to speak again tomorrow afternoon, which matters to me because I need to see baseball back on the diamond as much as possible. We got the Sixers and the beatdown, the Flyers. Claude Giroux spoke today. So it really is an ask me anything type of vibe. And with that, we can kind of just go right to the anytime hotline. The phone number is available for you at 856-442-9805. Let's kick it and hear from you. Here we go.
Hey, bros. I'm a big fan from Oklahoma.
How come I can't answer? What's going on here? What was going on there? What was that? How come I couldn't answer that? All right, we'll try it again. I apologize. Here we go.
Hey, bros. I'm a big fan from Oklahoma. I just want to say, I want to know how all the Sixers are saying that that y'all won the trade. I don't understand it. James Harden, he hasn't been playing good in the playoffs at all, really, through his whole year. And Ben Simmons, what he did, well, he doesn't have to do that on the Nets because they can just pull him at center and he can just pass since he has KD and Kyrie, and you lost Seth and Drummond. So I'm just curious why 76ers are all high and mighty that they got James Harden when he hasn't been playing good this year or have any record of doing anything in the playoffs.
Okay, well, there's a lot of different ways we can kind of tackle this, and we'll start things off by saying you can't make the judgment right now when Ben Simmons hasn't played and James Harden hasn't played, and not that the regular season is going to tell you fully why or fully how someone won the trade or not. That's just not enough information. It comes down to the playoffs. But why is it different? Because Joel Embiid 5 years ago is not the Joel Embiid now. James Harden that you're referencing in the playoffs years ago when he was the number one guy with a totally different team in a totally different organization with a totally different unit surrounding that individual is not the same exact case as we see right now, which is a more intense, older James Harden who's been around the block with more experience. And oh, by the way, he's teamed up with the best player on the planet right now. So because James Harden has lost in the past and did not have the level of success that you wanted him to have in previous situations, it does not mean that now all of a sudden that he can't get the job done in a different circumstance, in a different organization, with a different team, with a different Eastern Conference, and so many different variables. I don't know who won the damn trade. To me, it's a trade where both teams, they had someone who was unwilling to play. They make a move. They bring in somebody different. The package for what the Sixers put to Brooklyn was a fair compensation. Both teams, I thought, reasonable compensation. No one overpaid. It was in the ballpark of each valid perspective, and then you just move the hell on from there. So if you get so tied up on this guy won or that guy won right now when nobody has even played yet, I just think the mentality and the mindset is completely in the wrong place to begin with. So that's how I see it personally. But you're downplaying James Harden because he had bad playoff moments. Okay, welcome to growing as an athlete. I hate that. I honestly despise that people look at failures in the playoffs as just this guy sucks. This guy's bad. This guy's pathetic. This guy's awful. It's a lazy narrative, and it's a bad way to view sports. I look at playoff losses as growing experience, and it matters to who you are. You don't have Joel Embiid playing this way if he didn't lose to the Toronto Raptors when Kawhi Leonard had the quadruple doink. Okay, that matters. Getting swept by Boston when Ben Simmons was unavailable in the bubble, that matters. Ben Simmons not taking a dunk underneath the basket last year and losing and having those home losses in the Wells Fargo Center, the Atlanta Hawks, that matters. People want to ridicule and absolutely despise people when they fail, but then don't recognize that that matters to the growth. And the difference with Ben Simmons specifically is he has failed over and 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 over again with just not shooting a basketball, and he's unwilling to change that and do that. That's not the same situation as James Harden having a loss in a playoff series a handful of years ago. And I find it hysterical that the Brooklyn Nets fans are watching him take corner threes and they think that's new. I mean, that's so cute. That's so funny. Oh, that's really new? No, he's been doing that every single damn game in a Philadelphia 76ers uniform since he got here. That ain't new. That's Ben Simmons. He can do it all he wants in an open gym. It ain't going to get any better because it's been so long now and it's been exactly the same. So at some point, you just kind of know it is what it is. Now, that doesn't tie to James Harden, because with James Harden, and you're talking X amount of years ago and doing it in a different organization with a different team, not playing with Joel Embiid, we're talking about one guy who's such an outlier. Ben Simmons doesn't shoot a basketball. It's hard to really connect that or compare that to any other situation because 99% of athletes are actually willing to grow and put a lot of emphasis into their craft. Ben Simmons just makes up lies so he can get paid through his contract and make up a mental health story so he doesn't lose his money. That's a totally different scenario that's hard to really connect to with everybody else. But, yeah, that's my thoughts on our opening question here on Ask Brodes Anything. With that, we'll go to Sean on the Anytime Hotline. What's up, Sean?
Gee, Brodes, I'm telling you, you're becoming a man of the people with this phone thing. Now you actually want to talk to us live and in color. This is interesting.
So hit me. What do you got?
Well, I mean, I'll go with some Sixer questions here. I mean, I'm not going to dwell too much on that debacle from last night, but a couple things are of concern to me. My first question is this. The Harden acquisition notwithstanding, do you think it's as important as I do that Daryl Morey gets some gems out of these veteran buyouts to formulate some semblance of a bench? Because that's what concerns me. When Harden and Embiid have to go to the bench to get rest, where do the points come from when the second unit comes in? That's my first question.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. And I think what we need to do, and I know this isn't the sexiest answer in the world, but yeah, he does have to go after some buyout players, whether it's a Lopez or, I know Dragic is a big name and all this. But in reality, you got to look at this James Harden experiment or experience as more than just you have 20 games to go and then let's go see if they can win a title this year. I think he's going to get creative. Now, there's already been reports from Zach Lowe about moving on from Tobias Harris and adding a different star with that money. So my point is this year is going to still be fun and it'll be an exciting push. And I'm not giving up on this season because I think the duo of Embiid and Harden is definitely one of the best two duos in the Eastern Conference still. But with that said, I'm looking at this as more of like a 3-year window of Daryl Morey putting the finishing touches on this than more just like I demand him to find all the answers in the buyout, because I just don't think that it's necessarily possible to demand him to do that with what is left with roster construction moves.
Gotcha. Yeah, my second question, and I've noticed this a lot this year, and it was pretty evident last night. The one area where, like it or not, they are going to miss Ben Simmons is on the defensive end, with his size playing the wing defenders. I mean, I'm watching Jason Tatum go one-on-one at times against Tyrese Maxey. And that's like sending a guy to a gunfight with a water pistol. I mean, what is Tyrese Maxey at 6'0" going to do to guard Jason Tatum? do you think they have weaknesses as I do in terms of size on the wings and defensive liabilities getting exploited come playoff time? I know you mentioned Kevin Herter yesterday lighting it up on Seth Curry in the playoffs last year. And I think that's going to be a major problem this year.
Yeah, and thanks, Sean. Those are great points, great questions, and I love it. I absolutely agree with you that they definitely lack some size there for sure. But all I know is in the NBA, I'll take better offense compared to better defense. Now, you need to be clean in both areas. You need to have a top 10 offense and a top 10 defense to legitimately target a nice playoff championship run and ultimately win that Larry O'Brien trophy. You just can't downplay that and act as if that's not an important piece to the puzzle. It is. Right now, as currently constructed, are they lacking on the defensive side? No doubt. I mean, it's basically every single night. You know the transition defense is going to be poor. It just comes down to, can you win shootouts? Can you score more? And can the ability of Joel Embiid in the paint area, can that open up the door for, in half-court sets defensively for you to hold your own with the rim protection and his ability to be Joel Embiid and Matisse Thybulle? Can that give you life where then you have enough offense to execute and score with James Harden's ability, with Joel's ability? Is that really where you're at right now? And the answer is yes, that is where you're at for this season. But it doesn't mean that for the next 2, 3, 4 years, however long you have with this combination, there's not a way to plug around a perfect amount of role players to get the job done. Right now, yeah, you made a big trade where you moved on from 3 players to acquire a James Harden and a Paul Millsap that, honestly, we have no idea what his role is going to be if he is the backup big man to Joel Embiid. Whatever the case is, they're going to have to land another big man. Regardless, though, you move on from Seth, Andre, and a Ben Simmons, who was unwilling to play for you anyway. You plug in one guy. My point is, when you ship out that and you bring back just a James Harden, there's still work to do. And as currently constructed, yes, they are lacking in that area. But if you look at the pros and the cons and the weighing out concept, what James Harden provides and what you lose, it's so much harder to get a star in this league. It's easier to find Drummonds. It's easier to find role players than it is to find the star. So get me the star and then let Daryl Morey work his magic to figure out exactly what you're going to do after that. This is the proper step to get to the ultimate goal. It's a 5-step process, okay? And we're just in the middle of those steps. You can't just snap your fingers and then automatically have that size and have that defense that you're looking for when you make the move that you did with the Brooklyn Nets. And that's kind of how I see it from there. It looks like we have a response from our first caller who called in talking about who won the trade. So is there a response here? Here we go.
Hey, bros. I just got one more question. If James Harden doesn't win a title with the Sixers and he just gets traded, then what are we looking at? Ben Simmons is gone. You don't have the 76ers. You have Joel Embiid. Are we just going to, start a rebuild? Because if he doesn't win, it's going to be a failure. Because he came out on the interview when he was getting introduced and said that he's here for a title this year. If they don't win it, what is our window gap looking? 2 to 3 years? I just want to know what you think.
I think that James Harden is going to be here for quite some time. This isn't something where he's just going to be gone and then you just wasted everything. No, him and Daryl Morey's relationship is extremely strong. He will be here for the long run and for a handful of years with Joel Embiid packaged together. His relationship with Doc Rivers is extremely strong as well, where he's not going anywhere. This isn't a 20-game run to go make it happen and Kawhi Leonard's going to go leave the Toronto Raptors to go play for the LA Clippers. This was a move to build something with this team and Joel Embiid and James Harden. Those two are going to be married together for a little bit of time now, and Daryl Morey still needs his work and still needs to operate with some moves in the offseason and in the buyout market. It's not as if this was an all-in right now this year, and if you win, hallelujah, and if you lose, you're absolutely screwed. This was always planned out for a little bit of time to push the right buttons and then go win a title. That doesn't mean this year's a throwaway year. When you have a talent this level of Joel Embiid, who's the best player on the planet, you have a chance. You have a chance. Now, they might fall. They might lose to the Milwaukee Bucks. They might fall in a tough, hard series. But that doesn't mean the substance of the core isn't good enough to do it. It just means right now, there's still some work to do. If anybody fully believes that it's a perfect Sixers team right now, well, that's just foolish. And that doesn't mean that it's not right to make this type of splash, because as constructed before the trade occurred, you weren't good enough. But now, when we look at this 5-step process, you are closer to your end goal than you were before you called Brooklyn and Sean Marks and pulled the trigger on the trade. So that's where we are at with that situation. We got some text messages coming here. I just want Harden to win a title while Harden is still in his prime. In 3 to 4 years, Harden's going to be a role player. I'm sure you thought the same thing about Chris Paul at his age, right? I'm sure when Chris Paul was getting up there, he thought, oh, this guy's not going to be important anymore. That's just not true. He's a reason why the Phoenix Suns are in contention year in and year out right now. Devin Booker was always getting his points. What changed? The professionalism of a journeyman who can settle down in offense and actually run the point position. Now, Chris Paul is more of your traditional set, your traditional point guard than James Harden is, even though I'm still valuing his 10 assists and I'm still valuing what he brings to the table, which is a ton. 22, 10, and 8 is his down year. He can definitely be a dog in this league. But 3 years from now, to say that he's just going to be a role player, I don't buy that whatsoever. It's okay to be 35 in this league, 34 in this league, and still be an important piece, especially at a floor general level. There's a difference between certain positions, and when it comes to knowledge and experience in this game, if that's the position that you're playing, it's extremely valuable to everybody else surrounding you, where I'm sorry, I can't just say that, oh, well, they got to do it in his prime. That is still this whole thing. In the NBA, let me know how many teams get the job done with a 22, 23, 24-year-old kid leading the way. There's something to be said. And quite frankly, I don't give a damn if Harden's in his prime or if he's 36. Do I care how old James Harden is? If the Sixers win a championship, do you think people are going to look at Phoenix for getting to the NBA Finals last year and go, you know what, I don't really like it because Chris Paul's old? I'm not a really big fan of how they did it, really, because Chris Paul's a little bit older. He's not really in his prime. He's not 29 anymore. He's not 28. He's not 30. He's getting up there in age, so I don't really like how it looks. I don't give a damn how it looks. And I'm not going to rule out James Harden still being a nice piece in this league, because in this league, you got to be a grown man. You got to have miles on the tires. It's okay, though, to be someone who's been around the block. That actually matters a lot more to me, and I would see that as a positive. I like where James Harden is at-ish in his career. That doesn't bother me whatsoever. I'm comfortable about it. Talking about a 3-year window or something as if that's a bad thing. Nah, I can't do that. I can't do that. All right, back to the phones, the Anytime Hotline. Here we go.
Hey, Brodes, I got 2 questions for you. So, what do you think the Flyers' plans are for next year, considering how much of a disaster this year was? And what do you think the Phillies' plans are if this year actually ends up happening?
Well, thank you so much for the call. I think the Phillies are going to happen. I've mentioned this before on previous shows. From what I'm hearing, the Flyers do have a game plan, and I will write this down as I read it out loud to you. They are going to trade Claude Giroux at the trade deadline. They are going to trade Justin Braun as a UFA at the trade deadline as well. They will buy out JVR's contract when it's all said and done. And they are taking phone calls on Travis Konechny and Travis Sanheim. I spoke to someone yesterday, and they made a team. Oh, yeah, Travis Konechny, oh, yeah. I don't think you'll be seeing him in the orange and black next year. That's for sure. So just interesting to think about. I think it's the right move because you have to, quote, aggressively retool, as Chuck Fletcher mentioned to us in the past. So if you trade G, you trade Justin Braun, you buy out JVR, You take phone calls on, and this is more of an offseason move, but you take phone calls on Travis Sanheim and Travis Konechny, and then you try and sign 2 to 3 free agents. That's their method. That's what they're trying to do. And I don't necessarily despise the mindset with that plan. What I will think about, though, is the execution side of it. It has to be sharp. It has to be smooth. They have to actually push the right buttons. But the idea, I'm always big on show me a path. Show me a blueprint. I like that blueprint. And I think based off of where they are right now, it's a blueprint that makes a lot of sense. Just from there, though, what free agents are you signing? What are you acquiring for Claude Giroux? What are the moves that are happening surrounding this? So I can get behind it for sure, and I like what they're thinking. I just wonder, are they going to actually hit the buttons that they are supposed to hit? That is something that I'm going to look for. I don't mind their plan, though. The Phillies, I can't wait for the Phillies. I want to see Bryson Stott at shortstop. That's number one. I want to see Bryson Stott at shortstop. They still have the whole Kyle Schwarber, Nick Castellanos, Chris Bryant. You also have, what else? Bullpen. So there's some things for Dave Dombrowski to do. There's a lot of things that Dave Dombrowski needs to do. I'm all here for it. And there will be a Phillies baseball season. I guarantee you that. This is how it always is. I don't know. We might not get it. I'm not sure. It might not happen. Now, I'm not telling you it'll be a full 162. We should have already had the pitchers and the catchers throwing the baseball around, having some long toss, getting some videos of that, and me being super stoked and super excited and just going nuts doing jumping jacks because I'm so happy. Why would I do jumping jacks? I have no idea, but we're so used to seeing that already. We're going to have it. To say we're not going to have it, there's too much on the line for that to occur. And by the way, did you see the contract that Juan Soto ended up declining? Now, I have no issue with him declining. There's fools on social media saying, what a greedy bastard to turn down $350 million. Juan Soto, 13 years, $350. My guy's going to be able to pop 400 plus. My guy's going to be able to land 500 plus. He'd be a fool to sign that deal. So kudos to Juan Soto for making the proper decision. That kid's a stud. Hey, get away from the NL East, please. Unless, you can pick up the phone and call Dave Dombrowski. I would love for that. But anything else, get out of the NL East, please. This dude's going to murder us for years to come if he sticks around in this league and with the Washington Nationals. All right, we'll go back to the Anytime Hotline. How are you today?
Good. It's me again from when we talked about the Harden.
Yes. Hello, Justin.
So, 2 questions. My first question is, I would take that Juan Soto. I would take Juan Soto here in a heartbeat. I would go pick him up at the airport.
Well, of course, we would take it in a heartbeat, but if we're Juan Soto and we know that we can make $500 million, it wouldn't be as easy to accept $350 for the 13 years. I got no problems with him holding out because he's going to be making a ridiculous amount of money. He's playing it the right way.
Exactly. And then my second question is, I really think Harden and Embiid are going to gel together. Like, they're going to be the better duo than Joel and Ben were.
Oh, I absolutely agree. And thank you, Justin. I think that that's a fair point. You know why? Because you actually have a point guard who can run a pick and roll, who can run a pick and pop, knowing Joel Embiid and what his tendencies are. You get a pick and pop in play. You see a dynamic duo of a point guard who actually is a threat and a big man. That naturally is a fit. That naturally is a feel. That's something that you can run a 2-man game and get a lot of plays in action and work off of that tandem. While with Ben, when Ben didn't have the ball in his hands, he couldn't do much. He had to stand down low because he's not a threat out by the perimeter, which then impacted what Joel Embiid could do. And that's why so many people were upset. Joel's out by the 3-point line too much. Joel, what a joke. He's taking too many threes. Why do you think he had to live out there? Why do you think he was hanging around the perimeter so much? Because Ben Simmons couldn't shoot a damn basketball. Because Ben Simmons is problematic. That is why you had to do it. It's a part of it for sure. He obviously shows he's versatile and he can bang from the three-point line, and that's part of why Joel Embiid is so special. So that's already factored into the great Joel Embiid experience, but it even intensifies more when Ben Simmons causes all these problems at the same time. So there's no doubt about it that the James Harden combination with Joel Embiid is going to be something that Ben and Joel couldn't be. And Ben and Joel won basketball games. The narrative that they never worked or they could never do it, that's not true. Because if Ben Simmons was willing to actually play his role, like there's limitations and it forces Joel to play a certain way and it changes your style. But even with that, if Ben Simmons just showed up to play a damn series and wasn't afraid of the basketball, then the Sixers are in the Eastern Conference Finals last year and they're beating the Atlanta Hawks. If Ben Simmons was just 3% better, well, then you're in the Eastern Conference. They could still play together. It limits you, but you could still do some serious damage. You throw in a James Harden, and it just brings it to the next level. All right, back to the phones we go. Hello, how are you?
Oh, yeah. What's up, bro?
What's
Big
up?
fan.
Thank you, man. I appreciate that. What's on your mind?
Yeah, I'm the dude from Oklahoma. I just have a question. I mean, I like the Harden trade. I do. But I just think we gave up too much.
But why?
With Seth and Andre.
Why would you give up too much?
Yeah, I just think if, like, I don't know, if they do take away Harden, I'm just saying he's kind of like in a slump. I mean, the man's really not being Harden. And I know Joel Embiid's good and all.
What do you mean he's not
like
being
one of the
Harden,
greatest.
though? He's averaging 10 assists per game, and he's giving you over 20 points. I think this narrative, like at one point, was he scoring, averaging 30 at a clip? Absolutely. But James Harden is still one of the best scorers in this league right now. And let me just say this. Andre Drummond was walking anyway. So Andre Drummond, you're losing Andre Drummond. Ben Simmons is not even playing for you. So what you did was you replaced Seth Curry with someone who's a better scorer, a better rebounder, a better passer, and a better defender. So you upgraded Seth Curry in every single asset in this game. You improved him, and yet we still gave up too much with someone who's walking away at the end of the year and someone who's not even playing for you. I just can't wrap my head around it.
Well, I just think, Seth Curry, you can bring him off the bench, and I don't think Matisse is a hit and miss. Like, some days he'll do good, some days he can't. He's basically like Ben. He plays good defense, but what's he going to do? And, like, Tyrese Maxey's been playing good, but, he's hit or miss too, really, this season.
Well, let me ask you this. If they
awful. Tobias is awful.
No, he's not awful. He's just not worth the money that he's paid, but he's not an awful player. If you ended up not making the deal, you think that you feel better about them making a playoff push compared to making the deal?
Well, I wanted him to go to like the Kings or go get Sabonis from the Pacers.
What? Come on. I can't do this. I feel like you're trolling me. I really do.
I think that's too much.
Where would Sabonis play with Joel Embiid?
Yeah, I see where you're coming from.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I really can't get behind that rationale at all. That would be a horrendous move. So you're now trading Ben for Sabonis, but you get James Harden, and that doesn't satisfy you? I really appreciate the call. Look, I don't want to, come at your throat here and start ripping you apart. It's fun. It's just sports debate. It's no hard feelings, but I'm sorry. I just can't see how anyone can say Seth Curry's too much to give up, but you got a better Seth Curry by every single angle of the game, in every way possible, in every single possible way to play the game of basketball. You got a better Seth Curry, and you gave up Seth, so you improved that position. You got rid of someone who's not even going to be here next year, and then someone who's unwilling to play and holding you hostage. So I can't comprehend how Sabonis would be enough. He can't play next to Joel Embiid. And what would that mean for Tobias? He can't play the 3. So Toby's at the 4. Where would Sabonis play? That doesn't even make sense. I would never trade a Ben Simmons for a Sabonis if you just realize that the start of a package with Ben gets you a James Harden. Whew. I don't see it. Let's see what the next person sees, though. You're on with Brodes. Hello.
Brodes, how we doing tonight?
I'm doing well. That last call threw me in for a bit of an emotional loop.
Yeah, Sabonis doesn't make sense at all. But what I wanted to touch on was I wanted to add in a little bit what Sean stated earlier.
Sure.
About that I think we absolutely need some guys in the buyout market because you gain Harden, obviously, which I do every single time, no doubt. But you do lose a little bit of depth, and the bench concerns me. But my main concern is Doc Rivers and his playoff rotations. And if he does what he did last year, 9, 10-man rotations, I mean, you have maybe 2 guys off your bench as of now that are playable playoff guys, like Niang
and Danny Green.
Fine. Everyone else.
It's really Danny Green, Niang, and then whoever your backup big man is. That's your 8, and that's the only 8 I'm touching.
Yeah, I mean, if you're playing Paul Reed or Charles Bassey in a playoff series, I'm going to throw up. Like, you can't – they're fine, regular season, that's fine. Playoffs, you can't – they just can't – they're not going to survive.
Yeah, I agree. And that's where, with Doc Rivers, he made it clear. He's the one who stated this, that once you get Harden in here, you have Harden, Maxey, Tobias, and Embiid. There's no way these players are all going to be off the floor at the same time. That's fine, him saying that, but actually executing it's a different story. Now, there's 2 things I want to touch on with this is, 1, if it's Tobias plus bench, I'm sorry, that's inexcusable, and that cannot work in a playoff series. So if he values that as not technically going to the all-bench lineup, that is definitely damaging to what this team might go through in a playoff experience, or that better not be the case. And then the only pushback I have on this buyout market thing is nobody's wrong to say they have to attack the buyout market. It's clear they need another backup big. They have so many issues right now because they are limited, but that's the price you pay when you make a James Harden, and that's okay because you still do that 100 out of 100 times. But I guess my point would be, how many times do you see a team win the playoffs and then afterwards you go, wow, thank the Lord they got those buyout market players because they were the difference. It never really gets to that level. You're going to win because James Harden and Joel Embiid balls out. Like Corey Joseph, like these are the names where, sure, it's a nice spurt, but how many teams look at what they did in the buyout market and they go, that's why we won the championship? Barely any, if any. So I'm not saying it's not important to do it. It's just, how much is that really going to change the end goal, I guess, is my thought from a distance. That's all. That's something that's in my head.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I guess, I'm just so accustomed to, back to a couple of years ago, we have Greg Monroe minus 11 in 2 minutes. And
Yep.
It was just
Yep, it was basic. That's impossible. And thank you so much for taking the time to call it. That's literally an impossible thing to do, what we experienced with Greg Monroe. It was vomit-worthy. It was awful. And every year, whether it was Amir Johnson, whether it was Greg Monroe, every year, it seems like we're inching our way closer to the better every year, right? Dwight Howard and then Andre Drummond. We're slowly getting to where we need to be. But with this one, you might have taken a step back with the backup big man, but I'll do that any day of the week if the alternative is a gentleman by the name of James Harden. I don't know if you've heard him or not, but he definitely is a very, 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 very talented player. I'm still emotionally in a tough spot considering we went through an argument about Seth Curry being too much. The Sixers did not give up too much in the trade. I heard Draymond Green say the same thing, and he goes, look, you gave them an all-star in Ben Simmons. Now, all of a sudden, Ben Simmons is some ridiculous player. And here's what I'll say about that. If you end up changing who Ben Simmons is and you go, well, he doesn't really need to be a star. Okay, well, then it changes everything. Then he's not an all-star guy with this insane potential. That can't be how you label him. If you're just saying that he's just going to be a guy who defends and plays hard and hangs out there but doesn't do a lot and he's not a star, well, then he's not what you're saying he is. He's not a star in this league. He's just a role player. At that point, he's just a role player. And can Ben Simmons be a role player on a championship team? Sure, I've seen Brook Lopez be a role player. I've seen plenty of guys be role players and win a championship. That's never been the discussion. The discussion has been, can Ben Simmons be a star in this league? And he thinks he can be. He thinks he can be. And I wonder what it's going to be like when he realizes that he's going to be fouled over and over again, and then they have to pull him off the court once again, this time in a different city. And how will he handle that emotionally? Because deep down, no matter what they value Ben Simmons at? He sees himself as, this is my team. He was watching the Sixers play, and still, like Clutch Sports, Rich Paul reported to Ramona Shelburne that he watched these games play out when he wasn't playing and thought to himself as he studied what was happening, this is my team. This guy's delusional. He's delusional. So I don't know how he's going to let that sink in, but it's going to cause him a ton of problems. Ridiculous. All right, we'll hop right back in. Here we go.
Hey, bros, it's Nolan. Big fan of your channel, man. Love what you're doing. I wanted to get your take on if there will actually be a baseball season, because I'm watching your podcast right now, your live stream, and I'm feeling the same way as you are, man. I just want baseball back. So I really hope that the lockout ends soon. But again, love what you're doing, man. Hope you have a great night, and hope to speak to you soon.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Thank you for all the kind words and for taking the time out to call into the show. Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, I want it to happen right now. I want to see baseball right now. My thoughts on it is we're going to have it. There's too much in stake here. There's too much out there with all these other leagues happening. There's no way that they don't figure this out. It might be a toxic environment until we get to that ultimate goal. It might get upsetting and disappointing and in a spot where it seems that you're optimistic one day and then not optimistic the following day. And you hear all these reports that they're not really close, and then you hear a report that they might be inching their way closer and starting to connect on one spot that might make this thing move quicker, right? So it's like day by day, you're feeling one way and then you're feeling a different way. By the end of it, though, do I think we're going to have a baseball season? No doubt about it. No doubt. I can't imagine in 2022 them being so damn stubborn to the point where all these other leagues are playing and they're just holding out. There's too much on the line for that to happen. There's too much involved in this era of everything happening, social media, the press, the media in general. There's way too much backlash in store for it to happen. They're going to make this thing go down. You will see a baseball season. You will see, I am confident on you will see a baseball season. I just love, though, how the MLB owners are so old school and stuck in their own ways that they don't realize how much has changed in terms of the public perception and the public information that we have on what's happening. Back in the day, behind closed doors, they could sell a certain story, put it out in the newspaper, and then there would be a certain reaction to it. And now it's totally different. There's so many inside plugs, inside sources, so much happening so quickly with all the media. They think they're getting the public to feel a certain way, but at the end of the day, they can't get their goal accomplished the way that they want to. They want to sell it where the MLBPA is the ones that are causing all the issues, and they're the ones that's making this more toxic than it needs to be. But it just doesn't pan out that way in this era of media and things of that nature. Someone keeps calling in over and over and over again. I keep answering. You don't need to hang up. I'll put you on right now. You're on with Brodes. Hello. Okay, well, we will block you if you just continue to call in every single second and then hanging up every single second. Okay, we got some text messages here. I live in Brooklyn and I watch the 76ers since 2007. I argue with my friends all the time about Harden and they just don't understand, bro. Yeah, if you're talking about your friends not fully understanding what they did, I don't know what else to do other than explain it the way that I have. I think it's pretty logical when you hear what they did and see the logic and see the plan. I mean, it seems pretty obvious how this thing should play out, but let's go back to the phones here. Hello, hello, hello. Hello.
Hello there.
Hello, how are you?
Oh, I am fantastic. Watching the stream. Love it.
Thank you so much.
I have two questions.
Okay.
That's all. Philadelphia Flyers. Love them to death. Hate seeing Giroux go. Been a fan for years. Hate to see him go, but I think that's the better option. He needs to win a Stanley Cup. Give him the opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, there's no doubt about it. There's nothing this franchise could do holding on with him. Now, it's his decision ultimately. I mean, he's been around the block for a long period of time. He's wore that C for a long time. It is his decision, but he knows it. I think there's a reason why he spoke today the way that he did. Apparently, there's a sit-down interview that's coming out in the next couple of days through NBC Sports Philadelphia and Taryn Hatcher. It's already in the works, and there's been all sorts of scouts and people involved in the organization going to Colorado to scout who they would want in a trade. So I think it's pretty much set in stone. It's just about, okay, who are we getting back in return? I know Claude today said something about I haven't really spoke to Chuck Fletcher about it yet. That was a little bizarre. I don't believe him at all. He's going to be moved on, and it's the right decision.
The other question I have is Phillies baseball. Dave Dombrowski has a lot of work to do still.
Yeah, and unfortunately, he can't make some of those moves because of them being on hold, but he definitely does. And I trust Dave Dombrowski. I have been tweeting it basically for the last 5, 6, 7 months. In Dave, I trust. He's a smart baseball man, and there's a lot of people who have been kind of discussing what's been happening inside the organization all the way down from single A, rookie ball, all the way up. And from what I'm hearing, there seems to be a clear different approach in what this organization has become under Dave and where it was in years past. And that's really all we can ask for, right?
Thank you very much for my call.
Absolutely.
Have a good night.
Thank you. Thank you for making it. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I've seen people who have been inside this organization for a while now speak publicly about the systemic changes in a good way for what has happened all the way from rookie ball all the way up. So I think that that's massive, obviously, for this new Dave Dombrowski stretch that we're about to go on, and I can't wait. I mean, I don't know who they're going to acquire. They still got money to get a splash, whether it's Schwarber, whether it is a Chris Bryant, whether it is a Nick Castellanos, there's an opportunity to land a nice player to help out this roster, and I'm excited to see what exactly he does. But I know that he understands this game. He's built winners in the past. Sign me up every single day for Dave Dombrowski to lead my baseball team. That's for damn sure. We'll take another call here. Hello, how are you?
Hey, how you doing? Brody?
Yes.
Is that you?
That is me.
Hey, Brody. Hey, listen, man, I just started checking you out online. Listen, you do an absolutely amazing job. I'm actually calling from Chicago, Illinois.
Oh, why,
Chicago
thank you
Bulls.
so much.
Chicago Bulls fan. No, I just wanted to call and just say real quick, you do an amazing job. I love the fact that you can root for your team and still be objective at the same time. But I do have to say this.
Okay.
I love the trade for both teams. I'm going to be honest. I tell you what, I watched Curry and Drummond play the other day, and they were just throw-ins. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, here's what I'll say about that, though. It's like you played the Sacramento Kings after losing like 10 games in a row, 11, 12 games in a row. You're bound to win one anyway. Right. And then with Seth Curry, he put up a lot of shots for his 23 points. Not that he can't score. He scored here, but he'll have a big game of 23 points, and then he'll have a game where he goes 1 of 7 for 3, or he goes 1 of 6 for 3. Yeah, okay. And with KD back, is he going to be able to put up the same amount of shots to be that type of Seth Curry night in and night out? That's not who he is.
I got you. I agree. Listen, man, you do a great job. I can't wait to see Embiid and the Beard, because I think they're going to be amazing. How
do you feel about your squad? Are you in? Because I look at the Bulls, and this is where I'm at with the Eastern Conference. I think the Eastern Conference, the Bulls, the Cavs, the Sixers, the Celtics. There's no team that, let's say, years ago, LeBron in the East or the Golden State Warriors. It's so wide open that I honestly feel in a 7-game series, the Miami Heat, any of these teams can seriously do it if they just get hot at the right time.
I 100% agree with you. I'm totally nervous, man. Listen, the Bulls can easily go out in the first round. It's absolutely loaded. It's not like the West. I think the first place team has like a 5 or 6 game lead, and then when you get down to like the 8th place, it's like a 12 game lead or something like that. Not with us, man. It's gonna be great. I love the fact that each team is playing well. So hey, let's do it, man. You guys got a good team, man. Don't worry about what everybody's saying. When you have a chance to get James Harden, brother, hey, you did good.
Yes, I agree. Thank you so much for all the kind words. Thank you so much for tuning in from Chicago. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Yeah, I absolutely agree. Whenever you get an opportunity to get somebody named James Harden, you acquire that man and you end up adding him to the best player on the entire planet. I will continue to stress that phrase because Joel Embiid is the greatest player on the planet Earth. He's the best player in the solar system. He's the best player ever created in the history of the world. Okay, I'm being a jagoff, but you understand my point. This guy is just sensational to watch night in and night out. I can't get enough. I can't get enough of this guy. I can't get enough of all you guys calling in and really making this a fun Ask Brodes Anything show. So I appreciate that. We'll just keep things rolling here. There's no reason to stop. We'll bring in our next caller. Once again, I keep wanting to say good night because it's night. It's almost 8 p.m., but it also feels like I'm tucking you into bed at night. Good night. You're on with Brodes. Hello.
Hello.
Hello. Hello. Hello. How are you right now?
Good. How are you?
I am fantastic.
Yeah. First of all, love the podcast. Love all the work that you put in. I think that is one of my favorite things to watch after the Eagles
Thank you.
game or Sixers game. But yeah, what plays do you think we make for a backup center for Embiid?
Yeah, I mean, the names thrown out there is a Lopez or an Ennis Freedom, even though I don't really want to go down that route at all. There's too much baggage involved with that. I think Lopez is a good name. I also wonder, one, what is Paul Millsap? I wouldn't bet that he ends up being the guy, but I don't know who he is. And then do they like Paul Reed? I mean, once again, I like experience, and that's something I really, especially in the playoffs, want to rely on. But if you can't land something that you're looking for, or, maybe another team outbids you and get somebody before you do, I should say, in the buyout market, and they feel that they have a better chance to win in a different city, maybe they elect to go to that city. Do they play 8, 9, 10 minutes of James Harden with the backup big man and Paul Reed, and then just play that pick and roll downhill lob up slam that it seems James Harden has done with a lot of players, in the past?
Yeah, the pick and roll with Embiid and Harden just gets me so excited.
Yeah, I don't know how it's fully going to play out. There'll probably be a lot more pick and pop involved with Embiid's versatility, pick and pop, and then he gets the ball maybe from the free throw line extended, jab steps here, or does a little Hakeem and gets his footwork going 2 feet from the basket. It's all beautiful for sure. So I don't know exactly how the pick and roll is going to be, and I'm just fascinated in general how the concept between the two ends up being married together and blends together. It's going to be super exciting, though, and I do anticipate them taking some major strides and being a force out there. You got two weapons. You saw Boston triple team Joel. What are you doing? James Harden's the alternative out there.
Yeah, man, I can't wait. Awesome. Thanks, man. Appreciate you and love your podcast. Keep up the great work.
Thank you. I appreciate you taking the time to call into the show. I don't know what they do in the big man backup role. There's something that tells me that they like Paul Reed. I don't know what they're going to do with Paul Millsap, but it seems they like Paul Reed. Is there something to be said about downhill, 8 minutes, just go grab us some boards, go downhill, James Harden, maybe a lob with the pick and roll, and then we'll see what happens from there. I'm just spitballing. That's all. That's all I'm doing right now. I'm just spitballing, but is there legitimacy, to that just based off of their recent decisions? Or is that only happening because they don't have somebody else and they obviously haven't bought out anybody and that market hasn't been available yet, of course. All right, let's do another call. Here we go.
Hey, bros. Yeah, big fan of yours. Let's talk about this Eagles quarterback situation because honestly, tired of these rumors and stuff about getting a quarterback. We cannot afford to get another quarterback because it's just going to set this Eagles team back.
I don't agree with that at all. If you can get a Russell Wilson, sign me up. I don't like Deshaun Watson's baggage and everything that happens with him. If they figure that out legally and they go through the process the right way, and then it ends up being where Deshaun Watson is capable of playing and all that gets figured out and it goes down the proper path, well, then I'm more willing to talk about a Deshaun Watson. Oh, but they absolutely have a chance to grab somebody. I don't know how that sets your franchise back. You just watch Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. You added those players and then automatically automatically they're making a run. Now, yes, there was a miracle ride involved, and it seemed like it was just the football gods putting a little bit of life on them, but that's all it takes. The Eagles in 2017 won with Nick Foles. Nick Foles stinks. Nick Foles is a bad, bad quarterback. He's not good. He is not good. But everything just went right that year. That's all you can ask for. And you need a quarterback, as you saw with Joe Burrow, how that turns around the Cincinnati Bengals. I'm not anti-Jalen Hurts. I don't despise Jalen Hurts at all. I'm a fan of Jalen Hurts, and I think he will improve and get better. Ultimately, though, I do feel that the cap on Jalen Hurts still might not be good enough. He's not at his cap yet, so there's definitely room to grow. He's probably not going to be good enough by the end of it anyway, if I'm going to be honest with everyone. So am I just wasting time if I feel that way? Maybe. So if you can go snag another quarterback, and by the way, it's not wasting time, because if that's the circumstance, you're utilizing those draft picks to go grab some defenders on the defensive side of the ball, and you're grabbing some players to build you for the long term. So if the quarterback ends up not being your answer and Jalen Hurts isn't the guy, you still got some players on your defense. Maybe you got another offensive weapon as well. Maybe you still continue to look at your offensive line and keep plugging away in that department. Defensive line, definitely. So it's not really wasting time all around, wasting time with the quarterback position. If you feel he's not good enough, why would you pass up on a Russell Wilson or something of that sort? Okay, I'm with you. If you can get that, I don't know how that sets you back, because getting a quarterback will put you in the right direction, if anything else. So I can't wrap my head around that. And this is coming from someone who did not destroy Jalen Hurts, did not rip apart Jalen Hurts, did not despise Jalen Hurts. I like Jalen Hurts, but I got to be honest, I do have a fear on what he can be, and I think he'll improve, and I think he'll get better, because that's what athletes do, and he is wired the right way, but there still is a cap on his skill set that I don't know. I don't know long-term if he'll be the answer, and if I can find an answer, then why would I not bring that in? Why would I not bring that in? That would be foolish. Very foolish. Anytime hotline. Hello. Okay, that's like the 5th time. Is that the same number, or is that a different number? That's a different number. No reason to get, scared, fearful. Let's talk. Here's a text message from Elliot from Foxborough, Mass. Birds are better than the Patriots. Nice. I spent some time in East Bridgewater in Massachusetts, and in Northborough, Westborough. I've had my fair share of times in Massachusetts. Anyway, I just ordered my Wheeler powder blue jersey. Absolutely stoked. My question to you is, do we see a drop-off from Zack Wheeler, or do you think he has a Garrett Cole, Jacob deGrom type of year? Well, Jacob deGrom is not human, so it's hard for me to think that he'll be at the non-human level. He was very, 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 very good. Don't get me wrong. Jacob deGrom, though, just is a robot, and he doesn't compare to anybody, so it's hard to put him on that level of dominance. Do I think he'll support last year's season with another really exciting, strong season that puts him at the top of the NL? Yes, I do. There would be no reason for me to think that there would be any sort of drop-off. Now, that year does stick out as one that wows us to death, and there isn't a large sample size of him doing that every single year nonstop. He had injury history in the past, and that played a role. It wasn't like he was incapable, but maybe he was just unable to stay on the field to stay available for the Mets, and that played a role. Less about not being able to physically do it, just not available on the field to do it, if that makes sense. So I have no reason to think he can't support that. Until I'm proven otherwise, then yeah, I'm in a good spot with Zack Wheeler. I'm not in a great spot about Aaron Nola, that's for sure. And I do have a lot of fun thinking about this baseball team right now, and it's just making me think about podcasts, honestly. Like, do I want to just do a flat-out Phillies podcast, dude? That's where I'm at mentally as I talk about this right now, as we got a couple messages about it. We talked about Bryson Stott a little bit. The more of these Phillies questions get asked today and are coming in through the Anytime hotline, I'm definitely feeling fantastic. Fantastic talking about the Phillies right now. Just from a pure entertainment standpoint. This is what happens, though. The season gets ready. I get excited. Even though we're on pause right now, I'm just saying, when you start leading into spring training, you feel so high on this team. Yet halfway through the year, my face is turning red. I'm throwing punches at the camera, and I'm freaking out because Hector Neris blew a 4-2 lead in the bottom of the ninth with 2 outs on an 0-2 count. Now, obviously, that won't be the circumstance this year because Hector Neris, after such a fantastic time in a Phillies uniform, is no longer. But you understand what I'm saying here, which is we always feel great and we feel awesome that the season's beginning. And then about 3 months in, we're ripping our hair out. And then I basically go bald because I can't stand what this team does to me. That's what happens. That's what happens. Got any more texts in here? Yes, we do. What would help the Phillies for a playoff run? Hello. Hold on a second. Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. Can you please mute the background because we hear the YouTube stream coming through the phone?
Yeah, sure thing.
Awesome. What's on your mind tonight?
How you doing, man?
I'm feeling good. I'm just kicking back, relaxing at Chipotle for dinner. The people in front of me didn't know how to order, which pissed me off. I had a rule that I thought of when I was waiting in line. If you don't know how to order from Chipotle, you're not allowed to eat at Chipotle.
Yeah, I can definitely get behind that. Anyway, I'm watching the live stream right now, dude. I love what you're doing. You're such an amazing inspiration of the sports talk world that I cannot thank you enough for everything that you've done. Anyway, I wanted to get your thoughts on James Harden teaming up with Joel Embiid in the second half of the season. I think this team is definitely going to be very exciting down the stretch. And do you think the Sixers could possibly make a run at potentially the top spot for the Eastern Conference in the playoffs?
Yeah, it's definitely possible. And thank you so much for all the kind words. And thank you for everything you said. I greatly appreciate that. And it's a good question. When you look at the NBA standings, basically everyone, and I was saying this a little bit earlier to the caller from Chicago, who's a big Bulls fan because the Bulls are 37-21 and they're in second place in the Eastern Conference. I don't know if they're going to be the first. I mean, if I was a betting man, I probably would say no to the first. But could they be in that 3 range? Yeah, I think that's fair to maybe put them in that 3 range or so. Right now, 2.5 games back is where they're at for that first seed in the Eastern Conference. Can they do it? Sure. Everyone's sort of in the mix. Heat, Bulls, Bucks, Cavs, Sixers, Celtics, Raptors. They're all within the same vibe. Now, the Raptors are a little bit less. They're a little bit on the lower side of things. They're not at the same style as the other teams, but everyone is within 3.5 games back of that first seed where, of course, I mean, it just takes a nice run, but the problem is you can't just snap your fingers and automatically expect success between 2 guys who have never played with one another. Now, ultimately, they are a very, very, very good tandem, and they're 2 very, 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 very special players that you would think it wouldn't take them too long to do so. But you still have to feel each other out. There's definitely a learning process on how Embiid likes to play and what spots does he love on the floor. And you can watch them all you want, but until you're actually on the floor experiencing it with that person and playing games and running up and down the floor with one another, it's not exactly the same. So to answer your question, can I see it happen? Of course, it's not impossible. I don't know if it'll be the 1 seed. Right now, they're sitting in the 5th. I see them more 3-4 than 1-2, and I think that would be a good spot for the Sixers team when you look at their circumstances and what we thought in the beginning of the year when Ben Simmons was unavailable and sitting out and how bothered we were by it. It's a totally different squad right now, and they definitely put us in a position to feel confident about what they can do and at least compete. That's all I can ask for is them to compete, and they absolutely can battle as hard as some of these other teams at the top, and that is going to be fun. I was reading a couple questions here from the Anytime Hotline text message board before I answer that question. Sometimes you hear the ring because I'm stupid and I don't mute it the right way. I'll get the hang of it eventually. This is just in a flow. I'll get better at it as time kind of moves past here, but it threw me off guard because I was reading the text. The call came in. I answered the call to stop the noise. I just got to hit the button with my finger. Sometimes my finger slips. You know what I mean? All right, what would help the Phillies out for a playoff run? They need a better bullpen. They need a better shortstop than Didi Gregorius, and hopefully that answer is Bryson Stott. You need help at third base because Alec Boehm can't defend. I don't think he's that much of a good hitter either. He's someone who you better show me. I'm not believing that you're better until you show me that you are better. He was a disaster last season, and he's problematic. with Rhys Hoskins at defense at first and Alec Boehm at third, you got a lot of work to do. You need help in the outfield. So bullpen, outfield help, third base, shortstop. You got a lot you got to definitely do better at, for sure. With their starting rotation, you got Wheeler, you got Nola, you got Ranger Suarez, you got Kyle Gibson. I mean, Zach Eflin, that's not terrible. It's not great. It's definitely not terrible either. You got to work around the infield, though, help out with the bullpen, and then, figure out what you're going to do at outfield. So there's definitely moves to be made by Dave Dombrowski. That's what they have to do to put themselves in a playoff spot. They obviously have a different playoff format now. They're not too far from squeaking in. So they're not a World Series team by any means. But then again, who are the Atlanta Braves? Who the hell were the Atlanta Braves? Who the hell were the Washington Nationals the year they went on a run? They were nobodies, and then they just got it hot at the right time. I won't bet that happens. It's clear that it was a miracle ride, but just like the Eagles in 2017, Nick Foles stinks, but they won a Super Bowl. Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase without an offensive line, those guys don't stink, Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, but sometimes a miracle ride happens when you get in. You get in if you're the Phillies, and they're not far from just sneaking in. And we'll see whatever the hell happens from there. All right, let's go to Amadeo on the phones. What's up, Amadeo?
I have a funny thing to tell you, but this might also disgust you at the same time what I read in this group chat about the Phillies.
Uh-oh.
So, like I said, I'm not sure if I sent you this before, but so we were talking about the Phillies, and this person said that he would rather have the baseball season canceled than to have to passive-aggressively talk about a 500 baseball team that falls apart in September.
You did not send me that, and that's just a bad person. That's a bad sports fan. That's a bad individual, and that's dumb. I mean, that's someone who pretends they like baseball, but they don't even like baseball. See, as painful and brutal and disgusting as some of these blown saves are, and you tune into Ricky Bo afterwards, and you see him get all fired up, if you'd say you'd rather not sit through that and just not have baseball and have these two parties literally be an embarrassment towards one another compared to seeing it, and at least, we're pissed off, but at least we see it. That's a bad sports fan.
This man just really hates the Phillies, but this is another.
Well,
point
is he a baseball fan?
He's more of a Eagles and a Sixers fan.
Okay,
he likes baseball, but it's just
nope, he doesn't like baseball. He does not like baseball. If that's his thought, the person does not like baseball. And if you have to make a statement in the beginning that this person's really a Sixers and an Eagles guy, that's like, and I know you're a hockey guy, I'm a hockey guy. That's like someone who rips apart the Flyers and says that Giroux's the problem. I can't stand this guy. And then they go, I'm a big Eagles and Sixers fans. I don't really even pay attention too much to the Flyers, but then shares his thoughts on the Flyers. Oh, way to go, Amadeo, to get me going like this. Anyway, what else you got for me?
So this is to appease Sean Fitzpatrick because he's begging me for you to have a conversation about this.
Oh, no, Sean. He already had his chance. Go ahead, hit me.
Oh, God. Well, one, he keeps saying my dad owes him Swedish fish for some reason. Then also,
okay.
He wants me to talk about your possible trade destinations for Claude Giroux. What do you think the Flyers should get in return? Are you focusing on draft picks, prospects that are NHL ready in return, or are you just the guy that's focusing on just get the best possible return possible at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it starts with the best possible return for sure, and then you kind of have to measure that out and weigh that out, whether it's draft picks or ready-to-go players at this very moment. I mean, it seems, just from the outside looking in, that Colorado is the favorite to I don't know what the betting odds actually are. I'm sure that there are some sort of betting odds out there, but from what we're hearing, it does seem Colorado is. And honestly, in terms of what they can get back in return from Colorado, I haven't really studied firmly yet. Maybe you know a little bit more than me in terms of what they're actually looking for from them. Do you have any knowledge of that? Because I know that Colorado's where they're definitely doing their research, but I haven't heard any actual names yet. Have you?
Right now, I know the biggest name Flyers fans want is Alex Newhook, but right now the biggest rumor out there is that Joe Sakic does not want to part ways with them just because of how much he wants them to be a part of the Avalanche future. But right now, the rumors that I have been seeing from many sources that it's Right now, Tyson Jost is a guy that they could probably pull up the roster. There's a couple of guys down in their prospect system. I think one of their names is Barron, his last name, and I think another one of their last names is Ronta. I think Barron is one of their top defensive prospects besides Bo and Byram. So if you're looking at their top prospect guys, Newhook and Byram, those guys are off limits right now unless Colorado gets really desperate for Drew, which still I don't expect to happen. But right now, you're looking at maybe a Tyson Jost as your roster player and maybe NHL level prospects as Barron and maybe a Ronta forward type of guy.
Right. I'd have to do a little bit more research, and thanks, Amadeo, for who exactly those prospects are and all of that. I mean, obviously, me sitting here right now, hearing those names and not knowing too much about them, it's hard for me to have a reaction. It seems a little underwhelming because as much as people want to act as if Claude Giroux is not a special player, he's literally the best player available at the trade deadline. He's going to be that impactful to an NHL team that can bring him on as a top 6 player and add that to a team that's ready to go make a playoff run. I don't know many guys that are going to be at that level of play at the deadline. So it seems a little underwhelming, but I don't know enough about these prospects back in return. Knowing that they're, quote, aggressively retooling, you would think a ready-to-go player now in return is a little bit nicer, but at the same time, their system and young players, if we could find young players to pair up with a Joel Farabee. So it's Joel Farabee, another young player that you get back in return from Colorado, and then Sean Couturier and Kevin Hayes, and that's what you have down the middle, and you got some young, exciting players. Keep in mind, whatever you get back in return from Travis Konechny or a Travis Sanheim, I'm even hearing that Ivan Provorov is not off limits, so it's not like this would be the only thing. You'd have to look at the collective amount of moves made by the Flyers on if they ship 5 guys out of here and bring in 7 or so, let's say. You got to look at the entirety of the 7 as a package compared to just the one player that you're discussing for whatever it is that Claude Giroux ends up bringing back. But obviously that's the one that's going to get the most emphasis because, well, he has the most pop surrounding his name for sure. But I am fascinated to think about what exactly they are going to do with Claude Giroux and what their return is going to be. I'm also fascinated to hear from our next caller. Hello, welcome on in. You're on with Brodes.
Hey, it's your boy Greg. How you doing?
Hey, Greg, how are you?
Big fan of yours. I love to watch how your whole channel has evolved over the last couple of years. Doing a really great job.
Thank you so much for the kind words, man. I can't stress that enough to you and everybody else who's made those comments towards me. I mean, I can't thank everybody enough.
Yeah, I mean, you saved my ass when I was living out in Seattle and there was no Philadelphia sports media, and I found you on YouTube and I was like, oh, look at this guy doing that job, and been a fan ever since. And now I moved back. So
thank you. Thank you very much.
I just had one question I wanted to run by you about the Sixers. So I think we can agree that this year's MO for the Sixers has been next man up. And we had a lot of great guys stepping up. So Thybulle, what, if you were the coach, what would you do to help him develop be more efficient offensively? Because watching him kind of shoot the 3 ball lately, it's just not really going in. So I want to get your thoughts on that.
I mean, honestly, I don't know if there's much more to do other than you got to get better at 3-point shooting and take more shots. There's no doubt in my mind that Matisse Thybulle is shooting threes, right? Like if I told you right now, Matisse Thybulle every day is working on shooting 3-pointers, especially after Joel Embiid told him months ago that, hey, you got to let it rip. You got to let it fly. I mean, Matisse Thybulle is not Ben Simmons. And even Ben Simmons actually technically would take shots in the open gym and work on it. He just has a fear of actually doing it in a game. But I don't think Matisse Thybulle isn't putting the work in or isn't doing it. He just might not be capable of doing it at a high enough clip, which is problematic for sure. So, I mean, I don't know what else he could possibly do other than every day put up a bunch of shots. And he doesn't, at least from the smell test, he doesn't seem to be a kid who's unwilling to do that. I just don't think he's naturally a very good shooter, even though the form's not broken or it doesn't look like an ugly shot. He's just not confident in it and he's not good at it. So I think it's just a combination of that more so than the unwillingness to buy in and know, like he knows, right? He knows he needs to do better. I just don't think he's capable of being better.
Yeah, that's what I'm kind of afraid because I really want him to replace Danny Green. I'm not a big Danny Green fan right now, but I just would love him to get just maybe 2 to 4 3-pointers a game or 3-pointers a game and kind of space it out. But it's just you want to root for the guy, but it's just their shots are just not falling. And Yeah, I just don't know. Maybe if it's just kind of keep waiting. Maybe James Harden might help him out with some abilities, but I don't know. Maybe just have to just hold on, just watch and see what happens.
Yeah, and thank you so much. I don't know if that happens this season, if it ever is going to happen. I don't anticipate it. It's been 3 years, and it's been going in the wrong direction and going south every single season at this point. So I don't feel strongly about the Matisse Thybulle thing. And you mentioned Danny Green. I know a lot of Sixers fans ain't ready to hear this, but Danny Green might be your better option due to spacing. And the thing is that Danny Green's going to have a bad game, and he's going to get waxed defensively. And then you throw in Matisse Thybulle, who's going to do a good job defensively. And then the next night he'll do a poor job, and then he won't score. And it's going to be a rotation of whoever's playing better in that day, in that night. I mean, it basically is that where that 3 position between Danny Green and Matisse Thybulle will probably flip-flop basically every single night based off of who sucked the night before, really, is what I think it's basically going to be. But with that being said, I had a blast. We've been live for an hour and 15 minutes. I love you guys so much. It's been nonstop phone calls. You guys are great. You're all fantastic. I love this concept, too. The Ask Me Anything. Maybe we'll continue to do this whenever there's an off night without any games. We just kick back, we relax, we talk, we shoot the shit, and we have a lot of fun because I had a blast for sure. We'll definitely implement this throughout. Tomorrow, we have the Sixers-Bucks, so stay tuned for that. We will be live after the game. So make sure you are active and there as well. Thank you guys so much for your time tonight, and I will see you next time.